Hello, everyone, and welcome to this month's webinar in our webinar series. I hope you all are staying happy and healthy, but I'm really excited. My name is Georgia. We are going to be discussing a topic that has come up a lot in our support cases just over time, and it's a tool that will help you quite often. Our objective today is to know how to go to the next page in a specific agent or on a website. There's so many techniques that can be used when we're navigating to go to a next page. Specifically today, we're going to be discussing what a page list is and techniques for building out custom page lists. And then we're going to apply these to about 3 or 4 different websites so you can see the different styles. A page list is an action in our agent builder where it allows you to go to the next page of a website, which is helpful when you're trying to get a complete list of maybe products, contact information, or just to go to the next page for more details. There are so many different kinds of page lists that we can create. We can have numbers or icons, and one of my favorite is being able to navigate using the Load More button, where it doesn't create a new page, but it just loads more content. Here's an example of those. So we have this example where we have numbers and a next icon. We have a next icon as well as what I say, like the total number of pages, which is helpful if we're going to create our own URLs, which we will. Here's our show more results or load more. This can be on a site where you scroll down to the very bottom of the list and then it loads more content. We also have pagination using the URL. On this site, it says in the URL page equals and then the number that is listed there. Because the number is in the URL, we can do some fancy work. It's more advanced, but we can create a URL that will dynamically filter through each one of these results. So we'll go from page 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Things to keep in mind: when there is a page list, you need to have a begin item list to insert that action. So if you don't have a list of items that you're collecting, whether a list of products, contacts, reviews, whatever that may be, the action to add a page list won't be available. I have some shortcuts I'll show you, so if you do need a page list, you can add that. The other thing to keep in mind is when we're creating a page list, there's a possibility that our computers or our harvesters will recognize that as not stopping. So we need to make sure that when we do use a page list, we let it know to stop. Whenever possible, we're going to navigate using a URL. So here's some of the formatting. So here's our page list and then, sorry, our begin item list and then the page list at the bottom. If I needed to have a page list before in order to get all of my content, I could create a fake list. And this may be a new idea where we have an agent that will be building specifically towards this example. So this is going to have our begin item list and then a page list included as well. The techniques we're focusing on with our page list is going to be writing a custom XPath, formatting the agent to fit the page list on your site, and then using that number list to paginate. So we're going to practice. Our first example that we're going to be going through is a pretty simplistic site. It was nicely formatted where it just had a next button. So if I scroll down, it's been nice lately and asking me if I wanted 15% off every time I've loaded this. So let's take a look. So we have our page list where it goes through numbers and then it has a next button. We're going to take this URL. We want to get all 6 pages. And we're going to build this in the builder. To save on time and so you all can see it live, I've pre-built this for you. So we're just going to open this from my web console. We have our begin item list that is selecting the product, the description and size, as well as the price. We need to add our page list. I'm navigating right to where our page list is located. And Mozenda is really smart, so when we select this, we're going to have the option to create a page list. When you do select create a page list, it's asking you what it can look for on the page to note that it's going to go to the next page. And in this case, there's a next and 2 arrows to let us know to go to the next page. So when we create this as a page list, even in the XPath, it's noting in its address to look for this phrase next with 2 arrow icons. We're going to test this to make sure that we're able to go through all of the results. A nice feature to try while you are testing a list and you want to make sure it goes through every page is to add some refinements on your list. We're going to click on Test Settings and select Include Only the First Item and save that there. These are test settings that will only be applied as I test my agent. When I run it in the web console, it won't limit the results that I get. So we're going to test this to make sure that we're able to go through all of the pages. This would be a more simplistic example, and majority of the time it works pretty nicely where we're able to click on create a page list, select the next button or the numbers, and then get all of the results we need. There are times when they loop or it's in a different format. So as this is testing, let me show you the next site that we're going to be working with. So it went through 6 pages and we have 6 results, and we know that it completed that entire page list because in our agent, when we tested it, it said 6 that it ended on. Now we're going to try our next example. This next example is one of my favorite ones to work with because it has one of those show more. And when it has a show more detail, we can do it 2 different ways. So let me show you what the website looks like in just Chrome. I've been speaking to so many people that just the walk outside is a breath of fresh air during quarantine. So this was fun to look at all the different trails around here in Utah. So as we scroll down, there is a list all the way at the bottom. It will say show more. Perfect. So then we have this show more button here at the bottom. And when I click this, I also need it to, I need to see if it's going to click it again. Because if it's just a one-time click, I'm just going to select click this item. But if it repeats in order to load more information, I need to make sure that is selected. And it does repeat again. So as again, we built this before, so we have a trail list. And we need it to go to the bottom and click that see more results or show more results. And we're going to do this by doing a page list. And it says look for show more results. And in the XPath, we can see it will say look for the button that says show more results. So we know that it's selecting what we want it to select. We're going to test this again. I'm going to add some refinements for testing. And we're only going to include that first item. And let's test. When you're working with a page list, something to keep in mind is to look to make sure all of the results are there. So even though we're testing it to go through each page, you may want to remove the test settings and make sure all of the items are there that you're harvesting. So you'll notice on this one, it's repeating the same canyon again and again, even though it said that it loaded more information. What that makes me think is that we probably need to load all of the content before we begin harvesting or collecting the trail location and difficulty, because it's going to restart the list and just cycle through collecting that first item again and again as the first page. Because we added that test refinements, we were able to see that a little bit more clearly. We're going to try a new format. Our page list will only work if we have a begin item list. So we're going to create a dummy list to go to the next page or click that see more. I copied this begin item list. I'm clicking at the bottom and just pasting. We're going to delete the trail location and the difficulty, as well as the image. I'm going to bring this up to the very top because I want this to be my first action in my list. And we're going to call this the dummy list. Or you can even call it the page list if you need to. This is just to help me know that I'm not capturing any information in here. This is only going to be to click on the see more results. So now I have my dummy list. I'm just going to test this agent from the beginning so that I can reload the original website and have the see more a little bit further up on the page rather than having it 2 results or 3 clicks down. I'm going to remove these test settings as well. So let's start this over. And as soon as it begins loading, I'm just going to stop it there. Okay, now we get to do our page list. Our page list is pretty nice because it's in our path. It said we're going to click on show more. So as I scroll down, click show more results. I'm going to make sure I'm at the bottom of this page list for our dummy list. Show more results. So I have my dummy list, which is just allowing me to add my page list, which is the format. This is going to click on the page list until there are no more show more results. Once it finishes loading all of the results, it will begin gathering all of this information. So we're going to remove this. We need 231 results. So I'm going to go into my properties and my refinements for test settings and just include all results so that we can check our results to get 231. As you guys have questions, please feel free to chat in. If this is something that you've used personally, I'd love to hear your story as well. We can see it clicking that show more results, and it's continually clicking on that. We're not going to see our results until it stops pressing on new page. So it's not able to see any show more results. And now this is when it's going to be jumping to our begin item list to get the trail information. Here it goes, and it begins rolling. Perfect. So we've done two more simplistic examples, meaning we can click on the button and it recognizes to go to the next one. We added a new format in order to load all the information. This is helpful when you have show more and it's repetitive. Sometimes we have URLs or websites that they're not always recognized when there is a page list. Let me show you an example. We have a Canvas directory of contacts. And when I initially saw this, I knew this was going to be a piece of cake because there is a next button, and I also could see the total amount of people in this directory. So when I copied this to create an agent, looks like we're still going. We're just going to open this new one. At the end of my begin capture list, so I captured the name of and the title here. We're going to add a page list. Something unique about this site is the way that we'll just see it. We'll just let it walk through. I'll give it just one more second to load. Okay, so here at the end of the list, we have our arrow. So I'm going to click this as a page list. When I click on that page list, it didn't recognize anything to press to go to the next page. It's completely blank. I could try one more time to do this page list, see if it creates, but it doesn't. So when this happens, I'm just going to create this as a blank page list, and this is assigned to me that I need to write an XPath in order to get to this page list to make it go to next. We're going to right-click and inspect, and it says icon arrow to the right here in the DevTools. So that it's easier for you all to see, I'm just going to pull that up in our browser. So I'm going to right-click and inspect. We're looking for things that make this item unique. This says class equals pagination next. It also says title equals next. We're going to identify the name, which is A, and then mark this a filter to say title equals next page. So this will say A filter attribute is title equals next page. And there's only one result. Copy your XPath that you wrote and paste it inside the builder. So I'm on my page list capture. And you can see it's pretty long what they did right here. So we're going to erase this one and paste what we wrote, which is search for a button or an element that says next page. And we're going to test this. I'm going to add our refinements one more time and only include the first item and test it. When you're testing your page list inside the builder, watching how it paginates is such a great way to troubleshoot, because you're able to see it going through exactly. So you can see if it's on page 7, if it's on page 6, so now it's on page 7. It's so helpful. So as this is loading, let's see if it makes it all the way through. And I am so grateful some of you have chatted in some of your questions. The recording will be sent out just about an hour, 30 minutes to an hour after our session is done, so you can have a copy of it directly. And I see some of you have submitted some of the ideas as well of what is helpful to you. And so Barbara, thank you so much for that as well. So how to deal with pop-ups when you're building an agent and a drop-down menu. So if there's more things that are relative to you that you would like to have a webinar on or training on, please let me know and we can go through that together. So thank you so much for that. Our cadence for our webinars, so next month we'll have a webinar on the second Thursday of every month at 12 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. If this time is a good time for you all, please let me know. The more information I have about what is best for all of you, it helps me get the material to you faster. So here, it's on page 33. The reason I'm watching it is, as I mentioned earlier, sometimes we have agents that loop. So it's still on page 36, 37. And I really want to see what's happening when it gets to the last page. You can tell I worked through this before and it does loop, which was such a surprise when we were working on this together. One of the questions was how to deal with pop-ups. Depending on the pop-up, you can add a click action into your agent to click on that specific item. And you'll see this icon that is yellow with an exclamation point. If the pop-up isn't always there, you may want to right-click and make it optional. Because my agent's running, I'm not able to show you directly now, but we'll use that as an example. If it just occurs when, like in the Derm store, when we opened up the agent here, and it had that 15% off, if you're building and it's not inhibiting you from getting the information, it may be good just to hold down the letter Q and then click on that so it closes. That's a way to interact with an interface without creating an action. So here it's working okay, but let's pull up a different browser so it will load that. So it just got to page 54. So I'm hoping that it will stop. But it's not, and my listings are kind of wonky. It just repeats the same result again and again. Let's take a look at what is happening when we get to this last page. I'm going to remove this test settings as well. So here, page 54, I'm going to click on it directly inside the website. This is often overlooked. If you have the last page, if you click on that last page and you look at this next button, it's grayed out. I can't click on that. But all I wrote to for the path was to say, look at this next button. And so even though this is grayed out to me, my XPath is still finding this next page. We want to find something that says that it's turned off or not to select it. So I'm going to delete this just so we can see it a little bit clearer. So we have pagination next. If you're not familiar with XPath, there's a great webinar on it. But this is an attribute and a value. It's kind of like hair equals brown. So this is class equals pagination next. And then not all of this makes sense, but I do see this word disabled, which helps me know that it's not abled. So I'm able to, if I make sure that I select this and say only click on this if it does not say disabled, that's going to give me, it's going to stop when I tell it to. So we're going to still write this next page, but we're also going to write if this contains disabled, do not select. So let's write search for A. It has the attribute of class of title equals next page. And we want it to not contain. So we're going to say not contain. And that was a class. that says disabled. So here, we're going to make sure that it's not selected when I'm on this page, but it does select on page 53. So let's take a look. We have that, it's not highlighting it, which is a little nerve-wracking when you're writing XPath. But when I click on page 53 and I search, I do have a match. So this would be a good XPath to put into your builder. So we're going to take this page list and replace that XPath with what we just wrote. And what we wrote says click on the next page if it does not say disabled. So now when I test this, it works pretty well. We can go to our testing results. And I'm going to give it more time to load. If you know you have a site that's pretty large, this is a campus directory, so it's kind of big. One thing you can do is allow more time for the website to completely render. Awesome. So I'm going to just wait for this to load all the way. Let's take a look. Our last example is one of my favorite things to do when there is a page list. If we can capture a URL, that's what we want to do every single time. So let me just add in these wait seconds. So after loading this page, we're going to wait for Ajax, and we're going to wait up to 20 seconds, and we're just going to test it one more time. While this is testing, let me show you one of the other sites. There's two examples I have. I really want to show that Mozenda is used for not just analyzing products, but we help people collect information, whether it's contact information, licensees, as well as brand management and location management. So the examples that I'm showing you, they can be applied in almost every case that you're working in. In this site, you can see that there's a list of names, the institution, then we have the total number of pages. We have 146. When I need to go to this next page, I just want to see what happens to this URL. And you can see it says page 1 is on page 2, then page 3, it goes to page 2. So the page it's paginating using the URL. And I can test this by changing one of the numbers here. So I'm going to say, let's go to page 146. No results were found because it's actually numbered shorter. So let's do one number behind. So I'm going to say go to page 145, and that should bring me to page 146 here on the list. So we're going to create some URLs that dynamically load this number so you can go to the next page. One of the other examples that we're going to be working with is this Walmart toy section. Similarly to our administrative orders, if I click on this page 2, it says page 2 here. When you are thinking about using a URL to go to the next page, look at the numbers and make sure that your starting number is starting with number 1 or if it starts with 0. So if I did 0 here, it wouldn't be able to find it. But if I added 1, then it loads the first page. For this administrative order, if I load page 1, it takes me to page 2. And if I change this from page 1 to 0, then I'm able to see my page 1 of the content. now becomes the fun part. So we're going to first build with our list here inside our builder. Looks like it's paginating. That's good. I want to show you, actually, let's show you what it will look like once we're finished. This is what we're building. We're capturing the final page mounts. So here I'm capturing the final page, which is 146. This is great if you have a dynamic site. You don't know how many pages are going to be there, but you know you need to go to the end. So I'm capturing this as a final page. Then I created a custom value that is creating a page range so that I know in my agent or in my list of numbers where to stop. So I'm saying I want to go from 1 to the final page number, which is 146. It's in these percentage signs so that as this final capture captures the number, it will change with it. Once we have our page range, we're going to load this data list. This data list is going to have a list of numbers, and that's what we're going to add in. And we're going to set page range as parameters, limiting it from going 1 to 200 to only following the range that we set, which was 1 through 146. This is the structure that we're going to have. You can even add a capture to capture the page number so that you know which page you're on when you're capturing. First, let's begin with the Walmart example. And we're going to do a new one. We're building this one from scratch. You can see the format's a little wonky, so I'm just going to go into my settings and make sure my request blocking is off. Interesting. Let's reload it real quick. If you're not familiar with request blocking, it blocks specific requests that are occurring on your web page. So here it's blocking the CSS. CSS is the style and the formatting, the things that make it look really pretty. You can see that I still have some of the images there, but the format has changed from what it was before. We are going to make an executive decision to start with the other one first. So because we're going to start with 0, our input list or the numbers that we use need to start with 0 as well. So I have this number sheet. It goes, let's make this bigger. It goes from 1 all the way down to 200. That's just in case I have 200 pages that I need to navigate. So above here, I'm going to add the value 0 because I know that the first page for this website is on 0. We're going to change this so that it says numbers 0 through 200. And I'm going to download this as a CSV file. In my builder, we're going to use that input list. Let's pull that up. If it's more comfortable for you, what we're doing with that input list is adding it as a file to use in our agent. This can be done either in the agent builder, or you can add it here in your web console by clicking on collections, new collection, from a file on my computer. I've seen this be done if you have like a list of SKU items or URLs, you can upload that collection here. So I'm going to go to my downloads and I want to collect my 0 to 200. Let's make sure it downloaded. Perfect. So we have 0 to 200. We're going to add this into our builder, or we can add it into our collections in the web console. So that would be here, browse. We go back to our downloads, and then our numbers, 0 through 200. And I'm going to import this file. This just gives it a holding ground to keep inside of Mozenda rather than to have it just on your computer, and it's helpful to search. So I'm including the first column. The first row is an important collection, contains a field name. Ours doesn't have a field name. So let's make sure that we do add a field name there. That's one of the common errors that we see is if you do create a list, make sure that you do add a title or that the titles that you're using are what you're going to want in your agent, because you can include these into your agent that you're building. So I have page number. We're going to download this again, and I'm going to call this with fields and download this as a CSV file. We're going to load our URL from the website that we had before. And we're going to begin an agent from this page. Capture this last value as last page. I'm going to add a custom value. This means that I get to name it and I get to provide the value that I want it to be called. So this, it's going to say page range. And I'm going to say it's 1 through the last page. Make sure that you match this value that's in the percentage signs perfectly to the other capture that you have, because I'm referring to this number. Now we're going to add an action to input a list. We're going to use a file. And we're going to go to downloads with fields. And the first row contains field names, which we do want to select. If we didn't have that, then we just deselect that and import. Okay, so we're going to create our collection. I'm just going to rename this and call it number list. We've gone through a lot of different examples today. So we've gone through a basic page list, how to look to make sure that it's clicking on a next button, how to write an XPath when your page, it doesn't recognize the next button, so you can go to the next page, as well as if there's a show more. So I'm going to go into my properties of this begin data list. And we're going to add refinements so that we don't just search 1 through 200, but we search starting with this first value, which is item number 1, which matches our page range. And I'm going to say this in parameters that I want to have the page range included. So this just limited the scope of this action. So instead of having 1 through 200, it's only going to be loading 1 through 146. We're going to save that. We need to input a URL where it will put this number in place. This takes a couple times You may have to rewatch it again and again, just so that you can feel comfortable and confident as you're creating your own URL. So I've clicked on page 2 and I can see where this page 1 is. So where this page 1 is, I'm going to delete this and put the title or the field name of my numbers, which is page number. So this is the only thing that has percentage signs, so I know that it's going to rotate those numbers. I'm copying this URL and adding an action to load a new page. You can do a custom value, which is called the URL, just so that you don't have to type it all. But I have custom value. I'm going to load a new page and I'm going to call this the URL. It's asking me what value I want to put in. I'm just going to submit a value and let it decide. And to help it load more completely, we're going to execute these. So we're going to start with 0. And it loaded that page 1. We're going to make sure that this lines up with our page number. And then we have our filter here in our URL. I want to make sure that this says page number and not page numbers. Perfect. So by doing that, we're able to load through each URL as it goes to the next page. So you can see now it's on page 21. Let's just capture some actions here so we can see what is happening. Because before I was just going through each page pretty quickly. So we have page 1. And because it's moving so fast, that's why we've added another page number where we capture the page that it's on so we can ensure that it collected. So it's kind of like adding insurance that it's been going through each page. So it's here on page 21. And if I scroll down to the last result it received, it says Last Federal Credit Union, and that's here on the list as well for page 21. So we know that it's paginating through. And we captured this, so if this ever changes, we'll have that dynamically change with it. So if it changed to 50, it will change the range of page numbers that we have so that it will adjust as needed. Okay, we're going to do a final review. When we are building, let's subtract all of this. Write a custom XPath so you can find what you're looking for. Make sure that you format the agent to fit a page list. So if it is needing to have a show more, add a dummy page list so you can, or dummy item list so you can add that page list. When you have numbers in a URL, try and paginate using the URL instead. This will increase the consistency, and you're also able to split lists more easily, so I could run that more quickly in the web console. I really appreciate you all joining on today. One of the questions we had was also if there wasn't a page list and I needed to add a page list when I didn't have a list, what could I do to add that? One of the ways, it's a little bit sneaky, so if I didn't have a page list here and it was just a simple website, I could copy a URL of a different page that needed a page list. So, for example, here we have a really simplistic page list. And if I needed to add a page list, I could just load a URL and select load this new URL into the current page. It doesn't change my agent where it's starting at, but it gives me a different format to build off of. So from here, I'm holding down the letter Q and clicking X. if I didn't have this name list and I wanted to create a page list, then I could just copy, create a simple page list, copy the begin item list, and then delete it. So it'd be capture list. Come back down, create a page list. And then I could copy this page list. And when I go back to my original agent, it will remove the URL that I had before, and I could just paste this action somewhere else, like this. So I just pasted the page list up here at the top. If you have any other suggestions or things that you would like to talk about here in the upcoming months, please let me know. It's been an absolute pleasure to meet with you all, and I hope that you guys all have a fantastic rest of your week. Thank you all. Bye.